Understanding leads to one way, so whether it's an example, practice, or application, all of it. I will solve it using one method. If the students have just this one tool, they'll think, wow, this works for another problem too. Then they can start the next problem with this. So I think students will like this part the most. Since this is an introduction video, I will upload a separate video solving this so you can check if they solved it all the same way or if I was pulling your leg or overselling it, right? Hello, this is Minsikham from Minsikham Academy. Before we start the lecture, I would like to introduce the video first. You might be curious about the effects of taking this course, so I'll start with a brief introduction. First, let me introduce myself. You can call me Minsikham. Minsikham. Let's keep it consistent for everyone. When you're leaving comments, please feel free to just call me Minsik. However, let's make sure we all communicate with mutual respect. I'll also do my best to make a fun, relaxed environment for learning physics. So to make it official, everyone, regardless of age or gender, can just call me Minsik. Now let me explain the first feature. Even if you're learning for the first time, anyone can get an A+. Some students might think, oh, I don't have the basics. How can I do college physics? In high school, I found physics difficult, so I chose chemistry, or I chose biology, or I chose earth science, but now I'm in engineering. I ended up entering engineering, but when I tried to study physics, I thought, do I have to study high school material again? Or should I listen to EBS lectures on Physics 1 and 2? You might feel like you're lacking a lot of basics. But this becomes good news for those students. Got it? Even if you haven't properly studied Physics 1, this video will quickly teach you the core content. So, whether you can really solve exam problems, university problems are much harder than high school ones. So if you can solve all of these, high school problems should be no problem. So I will teach in a way that even if it's your first time learning, you can achieve an A+ in college physics. So an A+ might be ambitious for someone who hasn't even done basic physics, because an A+ is given to only 10%. 10%. So if there are 30 spots, only 3 can be accepted. Among those 3, there might be students who are good at Physics 1 and 2, and also those who study hard. So if you're learning for the first time, aim for an A. An A is rewarded to the top 30%, so you can get 10 people. Therefore, if you aim for an A, there's plenty of possibility. Well, then, is it impossible to solve all problems by using Minsik's method? No, if you watch this video carefully and follow along, you'll be able to solve all the problems. Got it? Everything. But now, they also give a perfect score prevention problem. Now, professors also give 5 problems. 5 problems. One problem is a perfect score prevention problem, but if you study properly, you can solve them all. Still, if the professor thinks hard and makes it difficult, you might not be able to solve it. So I think you can solve about 80%. Now, even beginners, I will try to teach in that way, so if you review, study again, and take the time to prepare in advance, I think getting an A+ is possible. However, we can't invest all our time in physics here, so I think those who listen to all the lectures, follow along, and apply what they've learned can solve about 80%. Out of 5 questions, 4 questions. Okay, I'll try to help so that anyone can achieve an A+. Okay, the second feature is something students might like. The feature of my lecture is that there's no need to memorize complex physics formulas. Many students say this. Oh, I'm not good at physics, but in physics, oh, I know this. What is it? F equals ma, F equals ma. You've heard of this, right? What is the most important formula in physics? If you ask this whether someone is good at physics or not, they might say that F equals ma is important. It's likely they will say this. Then other formulas. But why is it important? When asked why it's important, they can't answer. It's because they've only heard about it. But I can tell you that this is the most important thing. And students will understand why this is the most important formula once they go through the chapters on force and acceleration up to the 4th and 5th lectures, where they also draw free body diagrams. Then, you realize, oh, that's why Minsik says F equals ma is so important and the most important formula. You come to understand this. I'll explain it again at that time. For now, I'll leave why F equals ma is important and the most important for later. So I will teach you so that you don't need to memorize complex physics formulas. Of course, you still have to memorize the basic formulas. For example, speed is distance divided by time. You have to memorize things like these. However, what I'm saying you don't need to memorize are derived formulas. It would be difficult if there were too many formulas that only apply to specific problems and can't be used to solve other problems. These formulas just confuse us, right? That's why you don't need that. Of course, I will derive all these formulas for you, but that doesn't mean you have to memorize them. I'll explain them to the students step by step, making them easy to understand. So, I will teach you how to solve problems not because you've memorized the formulas, but because you've understood them. So, this is the second feature in this part. Now, the third feature is something students will probably like the most. All problems can be solved with one method. Most students will be like this. Example problems. They memorize the formula and then, oh, the example problems are solved because they just need to substitute the formula. But when it comes to practice problems, and then you move on to difficult practice problems, and then you say you can't solve the application problems. That's how it goes. Let me show you. For example, practice problems with graphs, right? Like this, with graphs. This is the easiest problem, then comes the second one. This time an equation appears, an expression comes out. Earlier it was a graph. Then the application problem. What's this? When the application problem comes up, there are students who just stare at it, right? They just keep looking at the test paper, just the test paper. Because even though they've memorized all the formulas, they ponder during the exam. So when it comes out, if someone asks, "Did you do well on the exam?" There are many who only focused on the exam paper. They just stare at the exam paper because they don't know where to start. But from Ham's perspective, these three problems are all the same. We will solve all three problems using one method. Since we will use the same method, if you learn just one method, you can solve all the problems here with that one method. Number 3 is that all types of problems can be solved with one method. So my method isn't about memorizing types, but I will teach you all the types. All these types, this type, this type, this type, are all the same. I will teach you this. Got it? It's not about studying types, but Ham focuses on concepts. Concepts. He makes you understand the concepts. Understand. By understanding. All with one method. So whether it's examples, practice, or application, everything will be solved with one method. If the students have just one thing, if they just have this tool, oh, what's this too? Then you can start the next problem with this as well. Without having to space out, you can directly solve the exam problem. Got it? So I think the students will like this part the most. Since this is an introduction video, I will upload a separate video showing how to solve it so you can check if I, Minsikham, solved it all using the same method, or if I was bluffing or exaggerating, right? So I'll show you that everything was solved using one method. So refer to that video and absorb it well, students. Just understand it well, why it can only be solved with one method, and why in the real exam it will only be solved with one method, okay? Until the midterm exam. And the fourth and final point, mastering the concept helps connect to other dynamic studies. Now this is important, the concept is mastered. Earlier I asked why F equals ma is important, right? So at first you will probably learn about motion, scalar vector. Scalar vector, you will learn this. In Chapter 2 we will learn about one-dimensional motion. Then in Chapter 3, we will learn about two-dimensional motion, two-dimensional. Then in Chapter 4, we will learn about force, types of forces. So as you learn these things, later on F equals ma appears for the first time here. but all of these are mastered. It connects. You need to realize this. So in the end, there's only one thing you've learned from studying. In the end, if you have F equals ma, you can do all of this. F equals ma exists because of this. You will master this. Scalar vector, one-dimensional motion, two-dimensional motion. Once you try these, later when you learn about force and types of force or force and acceleration, some systems might appear in Chapter 5, Force. So once you learn this suddenly, oh, it connects? Do you know why F equals ma is so damn important? Then later in solid mechanics, fluid mechanics, and dynamics, you'll understand why the free body diagram of F is important. Because everything starts from there. So this is the warm-up part, and then you master it through this. Mastery, you need to understand this. When students feel that the concept is mastered, do you know what happens? Studying becomes fun. Studying is, really tough. They give us practice problems and homework. It's so annoying. It can be like that, right? But studying is fun, you know? I hope this time with Ham can also be a chance to show you the fun side of studying. If studying is fun, students won't just play around, right? They'll study when it's time to study, right? So, the feeling of mastering a concept. Then the study method learned from Minsikham will later help students with mechanics studies. When they reach second or third grade in mechanics, it becomes difficult. But this becomes the basic foundation and helps with studying mechanics. Solid mechanics, the four major mechanics. Fluid mechanics, dynamics. And then there's thermodynamics. These are the four major mechanics. Right? Then later on, you also get into statics. Statics can be considered part of solid mechanics. All these basics apply here. And studying this way saves time. This is how you can truly master the concepts. Then later on, you'll understand why F equals ma is the most important formula. You just need to know F equals ma. Just do this properly. I hope this becomes a time when students can also explain this to others. Maybe when we get to Chapter 4, which deals with force and the types of forces, we'll also discuss free body diagrams and explain why F equals ma is so important. I'll explain it really well then, okay? Since this concept is included now, organize it well and I will try my best to pass on well to all of you. In university, you don't have any tutoring, do you? If you can't get any help about physics and you've only studied up to a high school level, you might end up giving up on your studies in university. It's because it's too difficult to study on your own. I started my YouTube channel because I wanted to help these students. I will do my absolute best to the extent of my abilities. And if the students' reactions are good, it will bring me joy when I make these videos. In the future, I will continue making the next series of classes and teach it. The point is to study according to the method I will teach you. You need to know this. Study like me. Follow me. This is the way to study physics. You will realize it later. I hope the time comes for this. So even if I'm not good now, even if my basics were lacking, I'm going to work really hard from now on to get an A+. Then please share your success stories with me. Got it? If you have any questions, you can ask me. Of course, I might not be able to answer every comment. Please understand this. I have a real life outside of YouTube too. If you leave comments, I'll try my best to help when I have time. When you have a question, just say, Minsikham, I have a question. Minsikham is my nickname. Got it? Okay, I will wrap up now. Make sure to grasp the concepts well and see for yourselves if you can absorb them and solve both practice and application problems. I'll upload the next video every day, so let's focus on studying physics for 1 hour each day together. Thank you for watching, and see you next video.